Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash
The move you're scared to make might be the game changer.
and Dale Hummel.
Ideas have no value unless action is taken.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello.
Current events, Ryan, where would you like to begin?
I don't know. It really, there's wars raging and a whole bunch of bullshit going on. And I am so over it. But, I guess that we have to inform the people. So Hunter Biden got indicted again, new charges. And I think in California, maybe. I'm not even sure what state. But anyway.
That it was California on tax evasion.
Yeah, I know it's tax evasion in California. He's got new charges. He was supposed to go testify today in front of Congress, and he went to Capitol Hill to announce that he wasn't going to testify. So there's that.
And did he not make a statement that he and the big guy are not financially involved?
I didn't watch it, so I don't know what he said.
I saw that it was on in the background, and then I caught the highlights. And what I could come from it, he's basically saying the GOP is making up things about his personal life, his business life, that his father is not involved with any of his business dealings whatsoever, that they're distorting what his business partner said. What was his business partner's name that came forward a long time ago and
I don't even remember.
Pointed all of these issues out? Well, they're saying that they're taking bits and pieces of what he says to construe what really happened, when I think I listened to like a half-hour interview and it was pretty clear what he was saying was going on.
I remember that man's interview and all that, and he sounded like, again, his side of the story was very convincing, but...
Well, Hunter got up there and lied like your boyfriend from California, but he wasn't as convincing, a little bit that I saw.
Well, again, that's because Gavin Newsom is a sociopath. And only sociopaths can lie that way. He's very good. He's very good at it. But the other thing,
very polished sociopath. Yeah, very polished.
Extremely, like the best in the world. But the other thing that is going on is, and this frustrates me. So the Democrats impeached Trump. Sent articles of impeachment. Like, they never got it done. But there were articles of impeachment brought against him. There was a trial, all the things, right? Okay. Never once in this process did the Democrats never not have the votes to do this. They had them. They did it. So today, in a few hours, the Republicans are going to take a vote on whether to launch an official impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Not bring articles of impeachment, not this other stuff, to launch an official impeachment inquiry. And guess what, Dale? They don't know how the vote's going to go.
That's what I heard. And is this not just so they have access to more?
Yes. This is, again, if this was actual articles of impeachment or something else, maybe I could say, but this is just to start an official impeachment investigation inquiry where they don't know if they have the votes.
It's not good.
I give up. I give up on those people.
I can run with that. I agree. What about the bill that Congress is Biden would like support for Ukraine, more money for Ukraine. No question. He's campaigning for it heavily. The Republicans say we're not going to give you the money unless you close down that border and change the border policy. And it's kind of a stalemate at this point.
Okay. So you say Republicans. Not exactly. It is the House Speaker that has said this.
Well, I think there's Republicans with him. There were a couple of them.
Yeah, but if push comes to shove, I don't know how the vote would go out. And I don't think he does either. Just being super honest.
And the Democrats are on board with Biden, I assume.
Oh, yes. And again, all these people quitting, retiring, vanishing, whatever, I don't even know what the actual Republican lead in the votes are. And it was down to like 3 at some point. It may be down less than that. So, again, I mean, that's cool that your boyfriend, the speaker, says that. And I agree with him. I have said that no more money for Ukraine for, I don't know, since the Ukraine war started, I think. But anyhow, and especially without, but again, if push comes to shove, does he have the votes? That I don't know. I'm for it.
Well, I think I appreciate that somebody's trying to get something done on the border. I appreciate that part. And we know where you stand on money going to Ukraine, and I'm not going to argue with you at all on it.
Oh, you
I had heard
used
some
to.
numbers.
You used to.
Well,
You
hold
used
on. I
to.
got a little bit, maybe. I have a small argument.
You used to.
Okay, so I'd heard some numbers about rebuilding.
You
and
like that
Ukraine's
man.
already thinking.
He's just as dirty as
Already-
Hunter Biden and Joe.
Okay, yes, he is. Okay, back to this rebuilding of Ukraine. I am out on flipping the bill to rebuild Ukraine. I am out on the European countries not contributing an equal share of their gross domestic product as we are. What I do appreciate about what's happened in Ukraine, nothing good that's happened to Ukraine, but the fact that we've spent 5% of our military budget, which is a large number. But in essence, I believe we've taken out half of Russia's conventional military assets with this war that's going on in Ukraine. I find that very positive. I do not see anything that's going to change the partnership, the alliance between China and Russia, and I consider them pretty much the biggest adversaries that we have currently. So anything that's going to damage them in any manner, I'm in favor of. And if that means that we did not lose any American lives, it only took 5% of our defense budget, I'm okay with that. That I see as a win. Do I believe we should fund the whole thing? No, I think that Europe needs to jump in. I think there's a lot of things going on, and I'm not opposed to whoever, the speaker, the Republicans, whoever it may be, tying something to do with the border to try to get that shut down, or at least bring more attention to it, whatever they can do to stop that open border. But Ryan, in all honesty, and again, I'm all for still stopping the border. We have to do that. I think it's too late. The terrorists that wanted to come to the country,
They're here.
from every country in
They're
the world, they're here. And if we ignore that, if we don't believe that, you're crazy. There is no way to deny those that wanted to harm the U.S. have been sending people into our country by the loads, and it's not hard to get in at the moment. By the way,
No, and so let me back something up here.
I don't even think we can do even recognizing they're here. I don't think we can do anything about it at this point.
Okay.
There's going to be problems that arise from such.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I'm not, but I want to back something up here.
Okay.
They want to rebuild Ukraine. The war is not over in Ukraine.
I understand that.
So
I think that's very optimistic.
what is the point in rebuilding the country when the country is still at war?
I believe at this point, and Dylan was the one telling me this, or my son, about getting financing through, I couldn't even tell you who he was talking about, but some of the companies that sometimes are guilty of promoting wars in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And it'd be a 50-year type loan in theory to Ukraine. You know how those 50-year loans work out?
Okay.
Not like a student loan if Joe's in charge.
Again, I don't understand why anybody would vote to rebuild Ukraine when the country
I don't
is still
know. I do not believe this is a vote. I believe this is just Ukraine reaching out to private industry to get financing at this point. But guess what it always evolves into? Taxpayers taking care of the bill.
And then,
Which I respect the people of Ukraine fighting the way. All of those things. I think that Russia does not need to be invaded. All of those things. But I don't know how we're directly responsible for flipping the bill on more than our share.
and I'm not even the war in Ukraine. And I get that you say we've taken out half of Putin's to whatever all this does. So here's my thing. This is the most frustrating part of all this. If China, and I believe China and Russia are compadres, they tight. Don't get me wrong, like they BFFs.
That's not separating anytime soon.
No,
that is an alliance that is
I'm
very strong.
I said I agree. But if Putin really wanted this to be over, all he had to do is like call up Xi Jinping and said, yo, this is what I need. Let's do this. And Ukraine would be defunct, gone, nothing. and yet it has not come to that. So I don't.
I believe there is support coming from China. I don't believe maybe it's at the level to do what you're wanting or what Putin would like to do is my assumption.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
And
if they wanted to, they could. But, whatever.
so I'm going to go back to this, taking out half of their conventional warfare or their assets, which is, I'm in favor of that. But guess what? Where we're at nuclear weapon-wise, where we're at from bio weapons, I don't even know that the conventional weapons matter anymore. If a small country wants to, and they have the scientists there, want to release a virus that can take out most of the population of this planet, I don't think we can stop them. And that's a frightening fact.
I'm with you. If you remember, this was the time last year that all this bullshit started, or the time last election and all this bullshit started with Rona. It was December.
You're right.
Yep. So,
and there's something going on. I didn't follow it, but some new bug in China that's causing or gathering some attention. I just don't know. I know that COVID the past 30 days in this area that I'm from has been very prevalent. One of the local gas stations, Casey's, closes down for a few days because they have no workers. So there's issues. Yeah, it's. I wish we had more rainbows and butterflies for current events, but I've got none, zero.
Yeah. That's very short. You acted like there was going to be very long. That's very short on.
Well, I could talk a little bit about the polls. I did look at those this morning.
Oh, you looked at the polls. Oh,
and every I did. So and not a lot of nothing that we wouldn't expect. And again, these every poll's a little bit different, but Trump Biden matchup appears to be somewhere around a +4 in Trump's direction. I think that's been pretty much that way for a while. If you throw Trump, Biden, Kennedy, Manchin, West, all of them in the mix, Trump bumps up a couple more points. So by having the independents come in, or the third, fourth party, whatever you want to call them, that does seem to favor Trump slightly. And it appears as though Trump has a 64% of the Republican primary vote. My buddy Ron is bouncing from 7 to 12. Nikki's 10 to 14. So it's, I at this point, Nikki seems to think she's building momentum, and she is, but I just don't see
the momentum is from 7 to 12.
Yes, there. So the only reason that they can possibly be staying in would be they're under the assumption, or I don't know if you want to use the word hopeful, that Trump will not be allowed to be on the ticket or something's going to happen.
They already did that. He's on the ticket. So he's on the ballot.
No, I mean in the general election. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. In the general election. Why else would they continue if they don't believe something like that's going to happen?
You told me it's for books and name. I have been the one that said these people are all morons.
I don't know about DeSantis and Haley. I think some of the others maybe, and maybe that's what they're doing. But this is a disadvantage to, in my opinion, for sure, to DeSantis, and I think even to Haley, to get beat this badly if you're thinking about running again in 4 more years.
Like,
so I don't see the advantages at this point.
I do. I have not seen them at all the whole time, and I really don't see them now because, again, all this stuff has gone against Trump, and yet his poll numbers increase and all this stuff. I'm telling you what your boy Ronnie D believes. He actually believes that when people go caucus in Iowa, that all these polls are going to be missed and he's actually going to win. I'm telling you, he's that delusional. Like,
he did say that.
Yes.
I cannot confirm if he believes it, but he did say that.
If he says it, then anyway, but yeah.
I mean, he did hit every single county in Iowa. I mean,
good
if
for him.
If he flops there, woof.
Yeah. So what happens if he? Okay, let's say he gets second. Okay, let's say he gets second, but it's by 20 points, which I think would be at this point.
I consider that a victory.
A victory for him. What have you proven? What have you proven? You got beat by 20 points, and you went to every county in the state. See that?
And I need to remind you of one thing because you do tie him to me fairly closely. Do you remember in the beginning do you remember what my hope was for him? I wanted him to have the exact same policy and to give a shit less about anything that Trump had without saying the biggest, the best, I'm everything. I've done this. I've done that. Without all the stuff that turns everybody off. That's what I was hoping. That didn't work.
No, didn't. No. But
he does not.
No, he's terrible when he's not speaking. But like, I don't care. I don't even know that it works when he's speaking. I try to pretend it does, and I just don't even know then. I think it's. I wish I had a backstage pass to, and I don't like. Again, Nikki Haley, I like her. I do. I just don't think she's going to be the first woman elected president. I just don't. Like, it's just my feeling. And it doesn't matter if it's this year or 4 years from now, whatever. So, and she has nothing to lose. I mean, really, she doesn't. She has nothing to lose. Because before she announced, she was just kind of on the radar or whatever. Now she's announced. She's maybe made more of a name for herself. More people know who she is. Ronnie D had everything to lose. He could have very easily.
He lost it.
He could have very easily, with no question, just been like, go Trump, 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 Trump. And if he finished out his little Florida governorship and all this, and if he would have won the Republican nomination by as big a landslide as Trump is winning right now. That is my issue. That's what I don't understand.
Completely. I believe if for some reason, I have no idea what it would be, Trump could not be on the ticket. That Trump could not be on the ticket. Nikki Haley actually, if Biden is going to be on the ticket, and I do not believe he will in the general election, but she is beating Biden by a significant margin, much more than what Trump is.
Yeah, but you noticed there ain't been no polls against anybody against Gavin.
I have not seen those.
Exactly. No. That's the scary part.
I don't know where he would be. I don't know. I really don't. I can be hopeful, but I don't know. Back to Nikki Haley real quick. I love what Nikki states and how anti-China she is at the moment. But if you look at her record when she was governor, I believe she was pretty friendly with China. And people can change and things change. So if she would implement what she says and hold strong to that when pressure comes, I think I'd be fine with her policy. But her past policy does concern me. And I believe she probably owes a few political favors to some of her donors, is my assumption. I do not disagree with anything she says at the moment.
The reason I think what you just said, and you said the same thing about Ron. If and how and maybe and if and they did it and all these ifs. If they do all this, I'd be good with it. Here's the thing. Do you know why Trump's winning by 64%? Every Republican knows what that man did in 4 years in office. Every single one of them. There is no if.
Zero.
That is the difference.
I think there's less. Yeah, there was a little if before he took office, but not a lot. But afterwards, it's done. There is no question he's going to do what he believes, irregardless of what anybody else thinks, says, or does.
And that is why he is winning at 64% or whatever, because there is no if. I'm with you. I actually think Kennedy, if he does what he says he could do, could be a very good president.
I hate to say that, but I'm with you on that.
But
again,
if is the largest 2-letter word in the universe. If
I feel that Kennedy would come close to it. I think he seems very convicted to what he believes, and I think running as a third party, that's another statement that he is not with the Democrats at this point.
Oh, that's because they told him bye-bye. You don't exist.
Now, now we're getting long, but we forgot to talk about, what do you think about salt water going into the Hamas tunnels in Gaza?
That is, again, well, okay, you bring up a very good point. All these people are worried about Ukraine and that war, and they're actual terrorists running amok over here, and nobody seems to care nearly as much. Very bothersome.
And I don't, and I'm going to go back to flooding the tunnels in the Hamas tunnels in Gaza. That I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I know that my kids and I, when we want to go catch a ground squirrel, fill a gallon jug of water, milk jug, tip it upside down over the hole. That ground squirrel will come up through the hole while the water's going down and into the milk jug. So if we had a bunch of large milk jugs, put them at the entrance of all those tunnels, do you think it'd work?
I don't know, but
I do.
Aren't they planning on doing this?
I think they're flooding it as we're speaking.
Yeah, like it's going down, right?
And again, I don't have any other solution, so I don't know that it's a bad idea. I don't know what happens if the hostages are in there. That's problematic.
Which, okay, and here's the other thing. If we know about this plan, don't you think Hamas knows about the plan?
Yep, I believe they're aware of that. I think they were gathering life jackets.
So there's no element of surprise here.
No,
I would be.
But this one here, I don't know that it matters. Maybe they just throw it out there that they're going to do it and flush them out. I don't know. I know that you probably don't want to go down there into one-on-one combat in the tunnels with them. That's probably a terrible idea. So maybe this works. I don't know who came up with this one, but it was at least original.
It's something. It is something for sure.
Okay, well, I'm good at this point. There was an anti-Israel protest in LA that shut down the interstate. You know how do you want me to tell you, if I would not be thrown in jail, what I may do with a protester sitting in the middle of an interstate?
Run them over. I know what you would do.
Yeah, I would not. I would.
And I don't think it would matter what they were protesting at all. You would just, if you saw a you would run them over. I don't think it would matter what they're protesting.
Well, why are they going to cause everybody on that interstate pain and misery of wherever they've got to? That's a terrible idea. Terrible. And you might be right. I'm not even sure I care what they're protesting.
I don't even think you would take time to read the sign. You would just be like, if you thought you could get away with it without
why don't
severe financial penalty or going to jail, you would just mow them over.
Somebody needs to. I'd prefer it wasn't me, but somebody needs to do it.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Top
Are you ready for
10 overall sheep in the nation right now. In first, Avery Walton of Cisco, Texas. In second, Macy Zerbach of Oregon. In third, Wyatt Nixon from Wisconsin. In fourth, Addison Zerbach from Oregon. In fifth, Dottie Lefty from California. In sixth, Alfred McDaniel, Thorndale. In seventh, Hannah Hewitt, Texas. In eighth, Piper Liska, Arizona. In ninth, Zane Downey, Montana. And rounding out the top 10 in the nation in sheep, Charlie Fender from Nevada. So that is your current.
Do you realize that is about as least racist geographically?
Yeah, it's the sheep are good. They're very well spread out. Very, very well spread out.
Very good.
Very well spread out. I would like to thank Leonard Truck and Trailer for being the largest BTRJLA sponsor for the past 2 years. At Leonard Truck and Trailer, they are dedicated to providing the best service, selection, and value. Our efforts are focused on meeting and exceeding our customers' expectations every day because we know that our continued success relies on our ability to satisfy every customer. With the largest selection of trailers in the nation, on-the-spot financing, custom vinyl department, in-house warranty department, and comprehensive parts and service, it is apparent why we have proven ourselves to be your one-shop stop for all your trailer needs. Thank you, Leonard Truck and Trailer and the Clint Leonard family, for your generous support of the BTRJLA the past 2 years.
Clint, thank you very much. Made in America, backed by science, tried and true to help keep livestock drinking while hauling or at the shows. ShowFresh H2O has been a longtime sponsor of this podcast and can be picked up at your local farm store, Show Supply Trailer, and at swampfox.com.
I'm going to have to go visit
Ryan,
that
this time-
swampfox.com place. I got to see what.
They explained the story to me.
Oh,
It
they
was a
did?
good story, but guess what?
You forgot it.
Yeah. Do you know how long I retain things?
About 3 minutes, but he had the greatest podcast topic in the world, and yet I still have not heard about it
Ever.
But yeah,
And it was so good, Ryan. I thought I don't even need to write this one down. It's so good, I won't forget it.
yeah, and that was like a week ago.
But yeah, I did forget it. But you have a great one this week. This is a good one. I hope people listen because this is interesting to me. It's interesting to you. So I promise you, we'll have the fewest downloads ever.
Well, I just find it an anomaly in a lot of ways, and that's why. So, I mean, it's strange, but yeah. Anyhow, go ahead.
Okay, Battle of the Sexes.
Yes.
Please explain what you thought of Battle of the Sexes in the show ring.
Yeah, and so
Wait, did you know? We forgot something.
what?
Weren't you in Las Vegas last week?
Yes, I was. I was in Las Vegas.
And did you get in any trouble? Did you find?
I did not go to jail. I did not find a husband or anything like that. I did not go to jail. I mean, I'm just telling you.
I'd call that a win.
I find it, and again, most people sleep a lot more than me, and everybody in my group, and there was like 30 of us, slept a lot more than me. I could sit there and watch people from 3 to 6 a.m. in a casino every day of my life and probably be the happiest little person alive because it's just, it is just amazing.
I could not agree more. My wife and I, when the weather's permitting, it'll be very late and just out on the sidewalk on the strip and just watch people go by.
It is
outside.
Just amazing what happens between like 3 and 6 in the morning. I mean, like
I've got some of those landscape rocks that I've kind of every year that we go or whenever we're there that I'll sit on just to watch that event. It is good.
It is just, I mean, like you, and again, like you can tell people what happened and they're like, yeah, I don't believe you, but like it really does. But yeah, but again,
what I was surprised on some of your snaps, it appears as though the ladies of the night were out very early in the morning.
Well, I think it was because it was the NFR, like they were on 24 round the clock watch.
Just nonstop.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, I was like, really, girls? Like, it's early. And I mean, but yeah. But also, and again, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but probably if you're looking for a hooker in Vegas, probably that time period is if you're there with a girlfriend, wife, significant other, etc. That's probably when they're going to be asleep. Because I thought about this. I'm like, why are they out so early? I don't understand. See, somebody's laughing. It may be Clifton. Dale. I don't know. But anyway, and I'm thinking,
the fact that you put that much thought into it.
I was like, that's why they're out. All of the girlfriends, wives, whatever, are asleep, and these guys are down here. And I'm just telling you, I watched it unfold. But anyway, it was.
That's probably what was happening.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty positive I'm right.
That's terrible.
I'm just saying. Like,
did you check in with them to see where rates were or anything?
No. This I cannot share this story on this podcast, but I have a very, very funny story that if an adult comes up
the circus type?
and I could do it on Beyond the Circus, but if an adult or you comes up at a show and asks me to share the NFR Vagrant hooker story, be glad to because it's very funny, but I don't think I need to share it with children listening. So, Battle of the Sexes.
Yes, please. Back on top.
Yeah. Battle of the Sexes. I think that definitely in sheep and hogs, I think that a large majority of the market shows allow castrated males, whether it's bearers or wethers, and females, whether it's gilt or used, to participate. Would you not agree with that, Dale?
Yes.
Okay. So we have that, and that happens a lot, and it's fine, and very common thing that happens. So why is it? And I would say that gilts are very competitive. And I would say that ewes are very competitive when they're showing against their male counterparts in market shows. Would you not agree with that, sir?
And I have all the answers for this.
Okay.
All of them.
Well, then give us those answers.
Well, they may not be accurate, but I have opinions. Maybe
Okay. Well,
a better way to put
give
it.
us your opinions on why they are competitive.
So I think in the hog side of it, there is no longer a mental block in a market show from a judge or people showing them that a gilt can compete with a barrel for the most part, because historically this has happened for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, gilts are going to be shown against market hogs competitively more so earlier. I'm going to go back to the 90s. That's a very long time ago. And the reason I go back there, biologically speaking, gilts are going to remain leaner than barrows if in the same environment and fed the same thing. So at that time, when we're on an extreme lean kick and there were no beta agonists, Paylean wasn't available, that was simple. It was almost unfair for a gilt to compete against a barrow when we're selecting so heavily on lean muscular shape. Gilts would biologically stay leaner and consequently more muscled expression than the barrow counterparts. This was all prior to the use of beta agonists or the common term Paylean.
Mm-hmm.
Once Paylean came in, that advantage kind of disappeared and the trend went to a little fatter hog, not the extreme lean, hard-bodied things. So it was no longer an advantage necessarily to show a gilt, not really a disadvantage, but that advantage is kind of disappeared. And right now, the people that are managing and feeding these hogs at a high level are so good at getting these hogs fat and almost shaping that fat to give you the illusion that they're big, muscular topped hogs, that I don't know that there's that gilt advantage. Definitely doesn't. Her being biologically leaner maybe works to her disadvantage at the moment. But because of history and because people aren't afraid to feed a gilt for a market show, all of those things combined, you don't hesitate when you're judging a market show. If the gilt's the best one, you're going to grab her without question, correct?
Correct.
No hesitation at all. No. And I think most people out there would do the same. If you go into maybe the other species, and particularly cattle, even if that, not saying you, but if we have a market heifer come in the ring with a bunch of really good steers and she happens to be the best one, I'm going to say if it's a fairly large show and there's actually people there watching, that judge is going to be hesitant to grab that market heifer just because it's not been done very often. It hasn't been proven. I think in the cattle side, if it was ever going to happen, you'd have to get some really good market heifers and some great hands and get them to win some substantial shows to maybe break that pattern and open the judges' minds. Not only the judges, but there's not a lot of people out there searching for a market heifer to go compete against the steers. And in some shows, they're not even allowed to compete, but it seems like more and more shows allow either sex to show, at least more so now than maybe just a few years ago. So there are a lot of things out there, and we can break it down by species, but hopefully that gives you some insight on where I think the hog thing is right now. And today I would say slight advantage to a barrow over a gilt because of their ability to put on fat if we want to try to make that big top and shape that fat. Historically speaking, it's bounced back and forth, and there's no mental block. The feeders are willing to feed them. The judges are willing to use them. You mentioned sheep, Ryan. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts there on the ewe side?
I think that's okay. So that there's multiple facets to this topic, but anyway, same thing. I think ewes are just as competitive as wethers in a market scenario.
I think they're, yeah. And I think, and I'm going to go back to a hormonal or biological advantage. And I have no basis for this other than just looking at sheep and visiting with people. I think the ewe lambs might even have an advantage when they're younger, let's say up to 80, 90, maybe 100 pounds. But then by the time we get into that 140, 150, 160, it seems like all of a sudden the wethers are coming back and dominating. And I can't tell you why other than hormonal changes on the ewe side. And you have that factor that some people are willing to show those ewe lambs young at the jackpot shows and shows where you're not going to chance losing that elite female, where maybe at a state fair or at a national show, if you win and it's a terminal show, they're not taking those elite ones there that they're going to risk losing that one. And there's always exceptions. So there are ewe lambs out there that I've seen at 140, 150 pounds that were truly elite and can compete against any weather. But in general, it seems at that weight, the wethers tend to have a slight advantage. And again, this is just observation, nothing more than that. I can make assumptions, and I can tie it back into the goat thing that we'll talk about here pretty soon. But my assumption is, if, depending on what time of the year they were born and the photo period, and whether they're coming into estrus or heat or reaching puberty or not, I think those things are gonna play some role in it. So, and I do not believe, especially at the jackpot shows, Ryan, I don't think there's any judges that are hesitating using the ewe lambs in a market show at this point. I think we're okay with it. Maybe not as freely as, say, in the hog ring, but definitely willing to do it more so than, say, cattle.
No, yeah. Again, this kind of where, like, that's kind of the beginning. So I think that we both agree for a multitude of reasons, and maybe probably the biggest reason is history, because they've been showing against each other more often than others, that by and large, a ewe can compete against a market wether sheep in a market show, and a gilt can compete against a barra in a market show. And whichever one the judge thinks is going to be the best wins. Okay, so we're both in agreement on that, and you've given some reasons why. So let's turn it around, and you've done this a little bit. Why, when does can compete against market wether goats, are the does? It's not that they don't win; they're normally at the end of the class.
Now you're being sexist again, I believe. You're just
I'm saying I have seen it. I have watched it. Not being sexist. I'm just saying.
Not just when you're judging, just in general.
No, not when I'm just. I've actually used a doe to win a market show, and I thought people were going to shoot me. But anyway, I mean, I have done it. But by and large, and I will even say when I'm judging, if it is a goat show where does and wethers can show, the does are more than not, even under me, who is as open-minded as anyone I know, are normally in the bottom half of the class. The majority of them showing are in the bottom half of the class. Explain why goat, Swami.
Well, I have a story. You know how many stories I have?
This will probably be your third one in life. So, okay, go ahead.
So I witnessed a jackpot show in the state of Iowa. I believe Mr. Rainbow's Butterflies and Unicorns was there. Mm-hmm. And he had a doe kid showing in the market class. And this was a good doe kid. I think you and I have actually judged her, and she did well under us as a market doe. And she ends up winning the market doe jackpot, or market jackpot show, showing against the wethers. Do you want to know the only interesting thing of that was the judge obviously didn't hesitate to use her because she was a doe, but he spoke as if she was a wether, and I don't think he even realized she was a doe. So under some circumstances, they can win. Now, it would be interesting if he would have recognized that she was a doe, which I don't know how it didn't happen, but he called her a wether every single time. And a he. I don't know what would have happened if he would have noticed it was a doe. Hopefully nothing would have changed, and that was his best one. But I think you're right. The does end up down there, and I can speak with a little more authority, I guess, on the goat side. And you do not see a lot of does shown in the market show, and when you do, they usually aren't getting along real well.
Well, you see more and more of them every damn show.
Well, not doing well, not competitive ones.
No, but they don't do
like,
well.
With the exception
of the show them.
Yeah. So with that said, I believe if we have flush mates, or if we have clones, let's go back to last week. If we have clones, doesn't work because we're male versus female. Let's say flush mates. Goats bred very similar, wether versus doe. I don't see an advantage or a disadvantage up to 50 pounds, maybe 60 pounds even. But somewhere in there, again, depending on what time of the year they're born, when a doe finally hits puberty, there is no question that she mellows, she flattens, she gets a little plainer, a little softer. Those non-market traits start to come out, and she starts to look more like a 2-year-old breeding goat or a 3-year-old breeding goat. But up until the point that happens hormonally, I don't think there's a significant advantage or disadvantage. So I cannot tell you why the does that you do see shown, for the most part, not all of them, are not doing well in the market show ring, other than the fact that the breeders may be keeping back their best does for replacements, and then the bottom end is all they have for sale. And that's what's showing up, where on the weather side, you may keep a buck, but the rest of them are going to get banded and shown as weathers. But up until a certain age, especially at light weights, I don't think an advantage or disadvantage going either way. Do I think there's some mental block there? I do believe there is with some judges, just because there's not been a lot of really good does shown as market animals. As more show, I think that psychological barrier falls apart a little bit, and it becomes more and more common. And I think you will see more of this. And I don't know. And again, I believe because photo period dictates when they're going to come into puberty on the sheep and goat side, that depending on the time of year they're born, that's going to vary quite a bit. We can show weather dams in hair, because they're in hair. You can keep them a little bit longer looking the part, but we can show them at a year plus without any trouble whatsoever in general. But they hit a certain point that you're just done. They turn into an old looking breeding doe that just doesn't work in that weather dam or even the commercial doe division. So I don't know, but I think would you agree there's some mental block there as well, Ryan?
That's kind of
With
the
some
purpose.
Judges, not you.
I mean, this is why I kind of want to talk about this topic. And again, I think a lot of it is probably, I think there is a percentage of it that's a mental block. And, we've talked about this, how it's accepted in 2 species, but in these other 2, it's not. And you touched a little on the market heifer thing. Okay. And granted, market heifer thing is kind of more of a Yankee type deal. We don't have them as much in the South. And I like market heifers. I think they're cool, all this other stuff. I've used them top 5. I've used them to win. I have no whatever. But I would think the same thing. Maybe not as bad as in the goat arena, but at the county fair level on up. And again, it would just be county fair to state fair, because you can't show a heifer at a market heifer at any of the national major shows. But you don't see, even when the market heifer is easily as good or better as some of the market steers, they don't do as well. They don't. And it's nothing on their physical characteristics whatsoever at all. And so it's got to be, like you're saying, a mental block, or people are scared, or it's not accepted enough, or all this other stuff. And so, on this portion of this, I just find it wildly fascinating that 2 species, perfectly acceptable to use a female in a market show, happens as many times as it doesn't. Other 2 species, it's like, it would be more of an anomaly than it being accepted. Like, it would be the weird thing. Oh my God, a market heifer won. Oh my God, a market doe won.
I agree completely on that. And you know what? I wish I had more experience seeing more market heifers at a marketable weight, or an acceptable kind of market show weight, because I've judged jackpot shows that they exist and so forth. And it seems to be catching on or popular in certain pockets. I think there's portions of Iowa that's pretty popular.
You can just go look at all those Midwest State Fair pictures. Some of them bitches are badass. Like,
there's some good. But I think it's state by state whether or not. And I think the bottom line is, and I don't know physically how they mature relative, because I don't have experience feeding a market heifer or been involved with it. But let's assume there's not significant differences. I think your statistical hurdle is, I have never, and Ryan, have you ever had somebody, and again, it's maybe not a Texas thing, but you've sold plenty of steers, brokered plenty of steers. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had somebody come to you wanting a market heifer, a killer market heifer?
No.
And I just don't think, I'm not saying that competitive families don't show market heifers, but statistically speaking, until some of those really good feeders decide to jump in and do that and take one out there that, wow, you just can't hardly beat her, I don't think we're going to get past that hurdle. I just don't. And statistically speaking, it just isn't going to happen. Now, maybe those really good ones out in those club calf operations, I'm going to assume those really good ones, what are they doing with them?
I'm sure a lot of them, they're keeping them. I mean, I'm not...
I assume so.
Right. But, okay,
But
I'm going to
we're so
give you
far into
two
it.
instances here, sir, that I was there live on location, saw it with my own eyes. One of the years that I did showmanship at the Indiana State Fair, I'm telling you, a waspy bitch won the market heifer deal. And, like, I looked at the other band, I was like, that, if she don't get in the top 5, something's wrong. And, like, nothing. And multiple years that I have attended the Iowa State Fair as a spectator, those classes are deep, they are good, and the ones that win are easily top 5 material, and very, very few times does it happen.
The only thing you can attribute that to is mental block on the judge's part.
And so, again,
And I'm not saying I agree with it.
I'm not saying I agree with it either, but it seems wild to me that we are split. We're two species. It's perfectly fine to do it. There is no middle. But the other two, no, not going to happen. That just seems insanity to me. But again,
And those same market heifers could be divided up and go into that commercial heifer class, or even now, like at Kansas City, the steer mama class. There's other places they can land, and maybe the best ones aren't always going to land in the market show. But irregardless of statistics and all those things, I don't think that you or I could argue the fact that judges are openly as willing in general to use a heifer to win a market show as they are a steer. It just is what it is.
no, and
this
again,
time.
I'm not arguing. I just think it's slightly odd that in two species it's perfectly
you believe
acceptable.
it's wrong.
Oh, I think it's wrong, no doubt. Because again, it should be. I mean, it should be the same across the board, but it's not. But so we've handled that. The more interesting side to this battle of the sexes that I don't think you're going to have answers for, but I'm going to ask anyway. Okay, so again, and this kind of goes back to exactly. I'm telling you, I have done this, and I am perfectly fine doing it. I think it's right. I think it's acceptable. There have been times where at a show, it's hogs or sheep, that the same hog has won the market show and won the breeding show. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. And I thought it was right. I did it. I knew it was the same one of all this other stuff. And again, this happens a lot. I mean, it does. They can win breeding and they can win market in both sheep and hogs. Would you at least agree with that, sir?
Absolutely no
Okay.
arguments on that.
Okay. So let's go to the other two. And we've already said that it is very hard for a market heifer to win in a market show. But there is a trend now where, and I get it, you get to show more, whatever, whether it's points, prizes, whatever. People will show one day as a market heifer and then the next day as a breeding heifer, or vice versa. Why is it, and I'm telling you, I don't think it works. I do not think it works. Why can a gilt win a market or a breeding class and perfectly fine? But on the heifer side, what we consider to be a good market heifer is not going to be as competitive in a breeding heifer show. I'm waiting.
On the cattle side, there's just a bigger separation.
And I'm telling you, it doesn't work.
Yes,
It does not work.
Breeding side, we've not placed hardly any emphasis on muscle or shape, and they're just too far apart. It's just not working. I don't think when you have weather dams on the goats and the sheep, those are going to look like a good market animal, period. They just are. And I'm not saying you can argue whether it's right or wrong, but they do. Same thing in the hog show. And I'm with you, Ryan. I've used the same one from one to another. And a lot of shows say we can only show it's maybe best that you can only show in either the market or the breeding. So
yeah, but a lot of shows don't do that. So, I mean, I agree. I think you should probably have to pick, but a lot of shows let you double a dip, and that's fine. You go into it knowing that.
And some people are very angry when you use the same one, right?
Oh, very angry. Very, very, very angry. Yes.
But I think there's if we just look at your ideal market steer right now at a national show or a very popular one, and a very popular heifer that's winning a national show. And I guess, I don't know, you probably have to compare it to the commercial heifer or the percentage key or main, or I don't know what breed you throw it against, but there's just a bigger separation there. We're trying, in theory, we're trying to make those heifers a little sounder, a little more functional, a little more productive from a mothering ability, at least the assumption of some of the things that we believe are productive. And I think the gap is just wider, where if we took the old school train of thought, market animals need to be more carcass oriented. They're terminal animals. They're not going to reproduce. So if they're not perfect in their movement, if they can get to the feeder in the water, that used to be good. At this point, we're so competitive across species in the market shows, we have to make them skeletally sound. They have to be everything. We're at a point in time that competitive level, I mean, there is no room for error or no room for a problem in there if you're trying to win the whole thing. Where historically speaking, some of those animals just had to be muscular, maybe with a proper degree of finish on them. If they didn't move quite right, that was okay. But we can't get through that now. So you would think that we would be coming a little closer together than maybe we were historically speaking. But you're dead on the cattle side and the does. I'm going to go back to the fact that at some point those does just don't look like market animals. Now, if you brought to me at a state fair, Jack, but whatever, at a show, you brought me a doe that was good enough to win the market show, and you turn around and show her as a weather dam, guess what? She's probably going to be very, very competitive under me. Now, do I see very many? I don't find very many does that win market shows. They exist. And I've seen a few of them that are really, really good, very elite, but there's just not many people dragging them. And I think they're fewer and far between. So I'm with you. I'm probably one that would be a little closer to using that market heifer if she's sound enough. I'm not afraid of muscle in the breeding ring by any means, if everything is right and they can move and they handle that muscle well. So bring a sound, stout one to me in the breeding side. I'm good on the breeding side. I'm good with using that in the market side. But I think you're right. There's a world of difference in most cases when you bounce from one to the other.
No, and again, we do have these weather dam shows in sheep and goats, and I think that is fine. But I don't. Even though that is a breeding animal, and Dale's going to argue with me, I don't think it's quite looked at. I think it's more acceptable in those type shows for them to be a little more market-esque type than probably what you would see winning in a full-blood boar-goat show.
Yes, absolutely that way. And to me, if they say they're weather dams, they're giving you the scenario, the environment they're going to be placed into, and what their purpose is. And that's to produce market goats, a market goat. Yeah. Yeah. So they damn sure better look a little bit like one, or it doesn't work. It just doesn't. Now, I'm not saying that's the most practical path. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying if you want to raise competitive market goats, you better have your females looking a little more like that than you do the full blood side.
Right. And I agree with all that. I just find, I guess this is a topic that it's fascinated me for a while, because I think there's so many contradictions within the species. And yet I think, we can, both of us, and I think the majority of the audience will agree, everything that we're saying here is pretty true, even though it's just opinions. But it just, I will use an example. a show, jackpot show within the last couple months. Heifer wins the breeding show, and good breeding heifer. I mean, whatever. Next day, she comes into the market heifer class, and she's third in class. And this is me judging, and I know that's where she needed to be. And I said, I know this can be controversial because the Grand Champion breeding heifer is sitting third out of class of 6, but that's where I think she needs to be because she's just not wide enough. She's not all this other thing to pass in a market heifer division. And again, I did what I think was right, but I just find this topic very interesting, maybe controversial, whatever, but I just have find so many of these things, the contradictions within and all the things very, very fascinating.
I agree. And I think it is interesting because I don't know that a lot of people sit down and think about it. Well, we do see market does, market ewes, et cetera, being shown in the market classes, but it is interesting how they are more accepted, whether they have those physiological advantages, hormonal advantages, early, older, whatever it may be. But there's a psychological game to it, and it's interesting how just as you say, well, if you take your same comparison you're looking at in that cattle show that you judged, you can take the champion full blood doe out of a breeding show and throw her. Let's say it's a younger one, say it's 100 pounds, throw her into a market class. Destroyed. I mean,
it's not going to work out worth a damn. I mean, it's just not.
But the gap between the market wethers and the sheep and the goats versus the wether dams, to me, I mean, if you're not selecting for almost 90% of the same characteristics, you're probably off. So those same ones are going to do well in general.
Anyhow,
it's good. Good topic. Very good topic.
I thought it was interesting and something that we hadn't talked about. I mean, because when you were on here before you signed on, Clifton asked me, "What's the topic?" He says, "Thought we did this." I said, "No, we did steers. Steers are from Venus, and heifers are from Mars, or something like that." It wasn't exactly the same, but definitely not this.
We did do what was,
but it wasn't this spin on it. It wasn't this spin on it for sure. But I don't
even remember what the spin was there.
I've always found this to be very, very interesting. And again, like I said, the show that I judged not long ago even sparked this, and I was like, this might be a heck of a good podcast topic. So there we go. But so that's my take. I think I don't know if we gave a lot of scientific reasons. Dale gave some, but I just think it is something that is
with no scientific basis.
Right. But I mean, I just think it's something that's very, very interesting that we can there are so many similarities within the species, within stock showing, and yet then it's almost like we are divided down the middle in between the two species in a wide variety of issues. So there you go. Merry Christmas. No, I'm joking.
I love it. Okay, let's get to your sponsor for question and answer, because I did go on our email and find questions. There's a lot of it. Ryan, we have to, we said this before, but we have to be serious about it. You or I or both have to start checking our email, because
I don't know we have an email. I have said this before.
I'm telling you, we have. They're asking questions about how to sanction a show. Can Ryan judge Yosemite County, Maine?
Well, I didn't even know the podcast had an email. I'm just going to be real honest. Had no idea.
Yes, but I'm going to apologize to our listeners because it doesn't get opened. I tend to go to Messenger on Facebook for questions usually. But I made a point to go to the email. I had a little extra time before we sat down and pulled some questions off there. And thank you. There is a lot of questions in there, and a lot of emails that need answered. A lot of emails from ag teachers and other livestock people about what equipment to use for a podcast. I'd like to start one. So I apologize to all of you out there that we have not responded to that. I will try to make an effort to at least give you a response. In just a heads up, probably not a good idea to ask Ryan or I about equipment or how to run a podcast, because we really don't know.
No, they would have to send those to Clifton because I get that a lot. I do. And again, you're going to get a free answer anyway. I've had several people ask me about how to start it up, whatever, all this other stuff. I was like, I have no idea. Dale came up with the idea. I got stuff sent to me with instructions, and almost 4 years later, here we are. So, yeah, don't ask me how because I don't know. I do not.
Well, we're thankful for all those listeners out there, and apologize at the same time for not responding to some of your emails. But we're going to work on that.
No, but we would like to thank Basic Animal Health for being the question and answer sponsor till the end of the year of the Beyond the Ring podcast, and they are very excited about bringing this portion of the podcast to you. Basic Animal Health is dedicated to providing natural solutions for your animal's products. They currently offer 3 products: Gut Health, Show Focus, and Trailer Ride. If you will go to their website at www.basicanimalhealth.com, purchase any of their products and use the code BTRJLA at checkout, the Junior Livestock Association will receive a portion of the proceeds from that sale. So thank you, Basic Animal Health.
Thank you for the contributing of funds to the BTRJLA. Have you've ordered awards, but you can't order specific like the champions when you don't know who they are yet. But
we've ordered what we can so far,
and everything's smooth so far.
Yes, for what we've been able to order, yes.
Excellent. Okay, the first question, we've talked about this topic, I think in detail, and I think we've even answered questions that were similar to this particular topic, but some things just continue to be asked, so we're going to answer them again as needed. Hi, my name is Jordan, and my children show both heifers and show pigs in South Texas. Ryan, you ever judged in South Texas?
I have. It's been a little bit, but I have.
The more we're looking into supplements, we're noticing that certain ones say that they can fix certain areas. For example, Fitter 52 can slim the neck of a heifer. How does it know to slim just
You've
the
done
neck?
this question.
And I'm telling you that it wasn't opened in the email, but there is similar. Now there's another part to it. So maybe that one right there. He talks about pigs, and I can paraphrase because it's very, very long. So I'm sure I haven't read this exact one, but same thing. He's talking about how some supplements say we can add fat in certain areas, and then another supplement says it adds fat to a different part of the pig. That if you use supplement A, you get fat in the top. You use supplement B, you get fat in the ham. That's paraphrasing about 3 paragraphs. But Jordan, I think it's better that Ryan answers this question.
I still don't know what the question is.
Why? How can supplements take fat away from only certain areas or only put fat on in certain areas?
I'm going to say that I think it's very difficult to prove that they can.
And I'm gonna second that. I do think there's an order when we go into carcass evaluations. There's an order on how animals, humans even, in different species, the order that they deposit fat. Internal organs are obviously very important. So we're going to put some internal fat in there to protect those organs, keep them warm, things like that. You're going to put subcutaneous fat on. Generally, the last fat to be put on, and I'm going to use cattle as an example, is intramuscular fat that we call marbling. And that fat is very easily accessible. If that animal gets into a negative energy balance, they can pull that fat out, is my assumption, and I hope I'm correct with that. But there is an order that it goes through. And I'm not saying that, for example, we used to be taught, well, look in the brisket or look back by the pin bones for fat deposition or their flank. I think there are parts of the body that they're more inclined to get fat placement more quickly. And maybe there's certain parts of the body that it peels off of more quickly. But I don't know that with supplements. I think if we put them on a Fitter 52, that's a high lysine, I'm assuming, we're burning those extra amino acids as energy or using energy to burn off those additional amino acids, and we're pulling body condition pretty much away. Now, from what part of the body, that's determined biologically. We can't just say, well, this amino acid is going to take fat off of this part. Is their neck and front end maybe one of the first places it comes off of? Very possible. But it is difficult, and Jordan, I understand your question. it does become confusing. I think we got to read through some of the bullshit. Sometimes the more claims a supplement makes that they can specifically target a certain area, I want more evidence. I want some proof of that. Now, there's not to say that there aren't supplements out there, fat supplements that are great, that are super high energy. They're palatable. You feed it, the animal's going to put on more fat. Now, where they're putting that fat on, good luck. That's a little more difficult to predict and understand. So there's good and bad to it. So look at the bigger picture, and I think you'll be okay. The next question, I'm going to leave the name off, Ryan. I think I use names sometimes that I'm not supposed to. She did not say, I said she. She did not say not use her name. But this one, I think you've brought this up before. I don't remember how. I was just wanting to ask how I could go about bringing up the topic of shit talking to some of my family members. Certain members of my family have said something to the judge or to friends of the judge or even to other show families. I don't know how to go about addressing such. It mainly concerns me as I'm the one whose reputation is being ruined by what they're saying. And they don't even show. Luck, Ryan.
I'm very confused. I guess.
So go ahead, give me your interpretation.
I don't know what my interpretation of that question is, other than somebody in her family is shit talking judges or other people, and they don't show. So, I guess from me, if they're not showing, I don't understand why they would even care if they're not involved. And secondly, obviously this person is concerned about it. My best advice to you is like, either, I'm sure you've told them to shut up or whatever, that explain to them that their reputation is not the one that's on the line or whatever. But I guess my thing would be is whoever they are doing this to, if it is getting back to those people, I just go to them and say, look, they don't know what they're talking about. I don't know why they're doing this. They don't even show, etc. And I think most people that have been in these positions understand that the large majority of people that run their heads normally don't know, and that's why they do. And I think you'd probably get a lot better traction with that, walking up saying, hey, I'm sorry, they don't know what they're talking about, but I don't want this to come back on me.
That is a near perfect answer for a very difficult question. That's good. Very, very good. Hopefully that works. The next one comes to us from Kate. Listened to your podcast today about showmanship, and it was very insightful. I'm a new listener, and I've only listened to 3 episodes so far. I agree that girls have a great edge when it comes to showmanship. Our son just turned 12, and he has been such a great junior showman and has won some buckles. The older he gets, the tougher the competition for sure. I was wondering if you had any advice on what boys can do to help give them a competitive edge also. Maybe it just comes with age and maturity for boys. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Again, boy moms and dads are not going to like the answer to this. And you can redirect your anger to Mother Nature. Girls have natural advantages, and they're going to have natural advantages their whole life. They have more grace. They have more poise. They have a easier and ability to focus for long periods of time. I can go on and on, but girls a lot of times look better than boys, and 98% of the people judging are guys, and that's just part of it. But girls do have advantages, and I've dealt with it. I faced it, all this other stuff, and it is what it is. But just like in all things in life, things aren't fair. The one thing that I will say about boys in general is if they truly, truly love it and they are eaten up with it, and this is their entire world, like it was for me, like it is for a lot of boys out there, it won't matter, because they will do what it takes, not only in terms of a work ethic, working the animals, all those other things, mentally, whatever. it will come across that this is what they are passionate about, and the advantages girls have won't matter.
Agreed. Excellent answer. I have a fourth question now, though.
Oh, okay.
I heard this in some of the congressional hearings, I believe.
Oh, Jesus.
Is there a difference between girls and boys?
Depends on who you ask.
This is a yes or no.
Again, depends on who you ask. For me, yes, there is a large difference, and it is very obvious and very easy. But again, if you're watching the congressional whatever, you're going to get very confused very quickly.
Very confused. And this was the deal with obviously men's and women's sports. And I think a follow-up question was, well, why do we even have women's sports? Just throw them all together. That is so absurd that we can't at least acknowledge there's a biological difference between males and females. And in the majority of the sporting events, the males' physical, hormonal advantages, whatever you want to call it, are going to prevail. It just is what it is. Yet those people can't accept that, right? And it's a little bit like here. You're right. Girls in general have an advantage across the board. I can't think of how many times I've pulled my top 10 showmen from all divisions together, and there's maybe one or two boys out there. And I promise you, it wasn't that I was trying to beat the boys. It's just there's not as many of them showing, maybe because they realize that they're at a disadvantage. But it's reality, and it just is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Are you ready to go back to Vegas?
Probably not right away. But I mean, I could go.
You're good for a while.
I could go next week, but I probably don't need to go for a week or so.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad you did not go to jail. You did not cause any trouble. Everything went as smooth as it could go. And for our listeners, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?